القيادة السورية على أرواح مواطنينا وأمن بلدنا.
Assad does not have significant military capability.
إذا قتلونا معتادا نروح على بيتنا.
Good afternoon on this Monday, September 30th. I'm Yumna Naufal and these are today's headlines. The death toll from the sinking of an Australia-bound asylum seeker boat off Indonesia rises to 36. International experts charged with destroying Syria's chemical arsenal say they have no reason to doubt the inventory supplied thus far. And 12 car bombs kill at least 51 people in Iraq and wound more than 120. The death toll from the sinking of an Australia-bound asylum seeker boat off of Indonesia has risen to 36, an official said, although it was not yet clear the number of Lebanese who died in the incident. The boat, which was estimated to be carrying between 80 and 120 Middle Eastern asylum seekers, went down on Friday in rough seas off Indonesia's main island of Java. It was headed for Australia's Christmas Island, and 28 people escaped alive as the boat foundered, but more are still believed to be missing. Search teams found 4 more bodies this morning, 2 of them children. This is according to Warsono, the police chief in the Agrabinta area of Java, where the boat went down. The official, who like many Indonesians goes by one name, said this was on top of 11 bodies discovered yesterday as the search terms scout the coast. President Michel Sleiman has said Lebanese authorities will push for the return of some of the Syrian refugees who are in the country and who have escaped to Lebanon to safe areas there. In remarks to a Nahar newspaper, Sleiman said, quote, the return would take place through coordination with the local administration. He said some of the displaced could return to safe areas in Syria or could be placed in camps inside Syria under the supervision of international agencies. The issue will be discussed at a ministerial level gathering to be held as part of UNHCR's annual executive committee gathering in Geneva. Those discussions will seek to build consensus for large-scale commitments incorporating humanitarian and emergency development support. Saudi ambassador to Lebanon, Ali Awad Asiri, says both Beirut and Riyadh had consulted on the recent decision to postpone President Sleiman's visit to Saudi Arabia. The postponement of the visit by Sleiman to Riyadh was based on consultations between the Lebanese and Saudi leaderships. Asiri said in a clarification statement to respond on reports on whether Sleiman's visit to Saudi Arabia was intended to be so. He had been scheduled to visit Riyadh tomorrow for talks with King Abdullah and other senior Saudi officials on the political crisis in Lebanon, as well as security challenges facing the country as a result of the Syrian crisis. A statement released by the presidential palace says Sleiman's visit was postponed to a date to be announced later. The terse statement did not give the reasons for the postponement. Lebanese Forces leader Samir Jaja is urging President Sleiman and Prime Minister-designate Tamam Salam to form the new cabinet without any delay, warning that the situation will further deteriorate if the process remains at a standstill. Jaja said in an interview with Al Akhbar newspaper, quote, that it is time for the government to be formed and the parliamentary blocs would have to assume their responsibilities afterward. Salam and President Sleiman are seeking to form the cabinet divided equally between the Lebanese foes and the centrists and are rejecting to grant the veto power to any party. Jaja pointed out that the March 14 alliance is discussing its stance of the ongoing stalemate, saying the situation in the country is deteriorating and the president and PM designate should either form a cabinet or change their standards. Security forces have arrested 3 Électricité du Liban workers for fighting with police during a protest at the Jie power plant south of Beirut. A security source revealed the 3 men were arrested after cruelly treating policemen trying to reopen the Jie coastal highway linking the south of Lebanon with Beirut during the protest. Some 35 temporary power workers staged a sit-in outside the Jie power plant on Monday to protest 2 months of unpaid salaries. Similar protests have been taking place across Lebanon almost daily, with temporary and part-time workers demanding full-time employment. When news about the arrest in Jie reached EDL headquarters in Beirut, a group of protesters already holding a sit-in there shut the doors, threatening to keep employees locked at their workplace unless their colleagues were released. international experts charged with destroying Syria's chemical arsenal will meet regime officials in Damascus on Tuesday. They said they have no reason to doubt the inventory supplied thus far. The Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons is initially dispatching around 20 experts to Syria, where they will begin the task of destroying the country's chemical weapons. According to the terms of a UN Security Council resolution passed at the weekend in a bid to avert U.S.-led military strikes on Syria, the unprecedented mission must be completed by mid-2014. The experts will arrive in Damascus on Tuesday and immediately meet officials from President Bashar al-Assad's regime. They are to visit all production and storage sites that Syria has identified. They will initially use expedient methods to render production facilities unusable before moving on to destroying actual ordnance. Britain, France and China will be involved in a peace conference on Syria due in Geneva in November, according to French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius. The U.S.-Russia peace initiative, dubbed Geneva II, will involve all 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council, Fabius told France Interradio, rebuffing a claim by Syrian President Bashar al-Assad that the Europeans had no role to play. Fabius said Geneva II should aim to reach agreement on a transition government for a united Syria that respects minorities. Fabius said extremists only comprised about 20% of the opposition fighters. And Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, who has pledged to comply with the UN resolution and hand over chemical weapons for destruction, said in an interview on Sunday that European countries had no place in the Geneva II talks. Coming up next, the Vatican says late Pope John Paul II and John the 23rd would be made saints at an unprecedented joint ceremony. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. 12 car bombs, mainly targeting areas of Baghdad province, killed at least 51 people and wounded more than 120 in Iraq, according to security and medical officials. The deadliest attacks hit Khadmiyeh, an area north of Baghdad, where 2 car bombs killed at least 7 people and wounded at least 19. Militants have carried out a string of sectarian attacks in central Iraq, raising the specter of a return to the all-out Sunni-Shia conflict that peaked back in 2006 and 2007 and killed tens of thousands of people. The blasts come a day after a suicide bomber attacked mourners at a mosque south of Baghdad, collapsing the roof and killing 47 people. On Friday, bombs exploded near 2 Sunni mosques in Baghdad as worshippers left prayers, killing 6 people. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry says a deal with Iran could be brokered within months if Tehran proves that its nuclear program was not being used to build atomic weapons. In an interview with CBS's 60 Minutes program, Kerry said and stated the desire by Iranian President Hassan Rouhani for an agreement within 3 to 6 months could be sooner if Iran satisfied certain conditions. He said it's possible to have a deal sooner depending on how forthcoming and clear Iran is prepared to be. We need to have a good deal here, and a good deal means that it is absolutely accountable, fail-safe in its measures to make certain that this is a peaceful program. The U.S. would not consider lifting sanctions against Iran until it was clear that a verifiable, accountable, transparent process was in place, according to the top U.S. diplomat. And Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, is heading to Washington, D.C. for talks with President Barack Obama, which are expected to focus on Iran's diplomatic charm offensive. The PM was quoted as saying, "I will speak the truth. Facts must be stated in the face of the sweet talk and the blitz of smiles." While Obama will attempt to reassure Netanyahu that he will not act prematurely to ease sanctions on Iran, growing signs of a U.S.-Iranian thaw have rattled Israel and could make for a tense encounter between the two leaders. Netanyahu, who will meet Obama at the White House, then address the UN on Tuesday, said he would tell the truth in the face of the sweet talk. Before leaving the U.S. on Friday, Iran's new president, Hassan Rouhani, shared a 15-minute phone call with President Obama, during which he said he wants to seek a deal with world powers on Iran's nuclear program within months. More than 70 people are missing after 3 Chinese boats sank in a powerful typhoon in the South China Sea. State media is saying this is as Vietnam undertakes mass evacuations. So far, 74 people have been confirmed missing as 3 fishing boats have sunk since Sunday afternoon. China's official Xinhua news agency reported, and it cited maritime authorities that said they were caught in rough waters whipped up by Typhoon Wu-tip, which is expected to make landfall in Vietnam's central region later today. The boats, which were together carrying 88 fishermen, sank after they attempted to navigate gales near the Paracel Islands, about 330 kilometers from China's southern coast. The Vatican says late Pope John Paul II and John XXIII would be made saints at an unprecedented joint ceremony on April 27th of 2014 in a bid to unite Catholic conservatives and liberals. Pope Francis made the historic announcement at a meeting of cardinals known as a consistory. The canonization of the two popes is expected to bring hundreds of thousands of pilgrims to Rome. The popular Polish Pope John Paul and his Italian predecessor known as Good Pope John are two of modern-day Catholicism's most influential figures. The double sainthood is seen by Vatican watchers as an attempt to breach a traditional left-right divide in the Church. Sainthood normally requires two confirmed miracles, though Francis has approved the canonization of John XXIII, with whom he shares a common touch and reformist views based on just one. John Paul II, who served as a pontiff from 1978 to 2005, was credited with his first miracle just 6 months after his death, when a French nun said she had been cured through prayer of Parkinson's, a disease he had also suffered from. His second miracle was reportedly carried out on a woman in Costa Rica who said she was healed from a serious brain condition by praying for John Paul's intercession on the same day he was beatified in 2011. John XXIII made his name by calling the historic Second Vatican Council, which overhauled the Church's rituals and doctrines and reached out to other faiths. The Global Citizen Festival, which is the second year, has drawn a capacity audience of 60,000 to the Great Lawn, and it revolves around a single stubborn mission, the end of extreme poverty worldwide. To that end, it's an informational forum as well as demonstration of public interest muscle, timed to coincide with the United Nations General Assembly. It is also a marathon musical event. This year, Stevie Wonder closed up shop after energetic sets by the guitar-slinging rock crooner John Mayer, the emphatically earnest R&B singer-songwriter Alicia Keys, and the surging southern rock band Kings of Leon, along with a brief but effective solo medley by Elvis Costello. And that ends our bulletin for today. Now for a reminder of our headlines. The death toll from the sinking of an Australia-bound asylum seeker boat off of Indonesia rises to 36. International experts charged with destroying Syria's chemical arsenal say they have no reason to doubt the inventory supplied thus far. And 12 car bombs kill at least 51 people in Iraq and wound more than 120. Those are your Monday headlines and the last day of this September. We hope you get a nice October ahead, and until then, take care.
من حفظ القيادة السورية على أرواح مواطنينا وأمن بلدنا.
Assad does not have significant military capability.
إذا قتلونا مع التابعين يحددنا.